Hello, Garland Nixon here. We're hanging out with Patrick Henningsen, and we're going to talk about the obvious, the rogue state. Let's go. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're hanging out with Patrick Henningsen. We're going to talk about the obvious, the madness of the U.S. empire. Period. I mean, yes, it's Trump, and let me say this: the good thing about Trump is he's not that bright, so he just comes out and says it. You know, hey, we're taking oil, whatever, right? And I bring this up. This is the second time we've kidnapped the president of the same country. In 2002, they kidnapped Hugo Chavez. You know what I mean? We kidnapped Noriega. I mean, this is kind of something that happens. And now the difference is, you know, they kind of hide it. They're quiet about it. Trump just comes out, we're doing it. We're taking the whole country, this and that. And he does the usual, his press conference, which Trump's good at that, making a big splash, a big press conference. We'll get into this. Here's what I compared it to. Everybody's like, let's compare it to Syria. Let's compare it to this. I said, no, let's compare it to Iran. Next day, because you know why I said that? Because I got all these people who called me, see, Garland, that's it. They defeated Iran. Then Iran's going down and they're going to replace the government. I'm like, dude, it's been like 8 hours here. Let's see how this works out over the course of a couple of weeks before we make a decision as to what's happening. No, it's over. Within like a couple of days, Iran got themselves on their feet. They pounded the crap out of Israel and they had to tap out, right? Everybody's like, it's over. They've taken Venezuela. I'm like, well, actually, they kidnapped one guy. The vice president stood up and stepped into place. And everybody's speculating. Nobody knows anything. Everybody's speculating as to what happened and who was sold that. We know absolutely nothing. It's been 48 hours. My opinion, it ain't gonna work out good for him. It ain't gonna work out real good. It's going to be a debacle. I'm out of your way, Patrick Henningsen.
It's hard to know where to start, but let's start there, Garland. How's it going to work out? Okay, that train wreck of a press conference at Mar-a-Lago, and I have to tell you that you know how they called Joe Biden Sleepy Joe? I'm going to call Donald Trump as Sloppy Joe. Sloppy Joe. If you're American, you know what that is. It's a great delicacy of high cuisine in the United States. Donald Trump was slobbering over the microphone. He was slurring. You could hear the saliva gargling in his mouth. And he didn't know what he was talking about half the time. Even his loyalists in the background, Rubio and Hegseth, were like cringing. Like, when is he going to stop talking about, what the hell is he talking about, troops on the street in Los Angeles, and a separate conversation. But on the Venezuela part, Garland, some incredible promises were made. Some incredible claims were made. We're going to take over the country. Okay. Let's get back to Maduro and whether that was legal to, abduct a head of state or not. I mean, why are we even having this debate? But he said, we're going to take over the country and we're going to run it until there's somebody that, we're happy with. And if we're not, we'll remove them. And we're going to take the oil, and we're going to have all U.S. companies come in, and we're going to invest, and we're going to give money to all the Venezuelans and make them rich as compensation. I mean, seriously, do you know how much money they poured into Ukraine? They poured ungodly sums of money into Ukraine. Is the average Ukrainian richer or poorer than they were when the war started? I'm going to say a lot poorer, if there's any left in Ukraine. So
how about this? How much money they laundered through Ukraine?
Right. So all these checks have been written by Trump on the fly, and one of his biggest attributes as a politician is that he never comes good on really anything that he promises. And Hegseth or Rubio say, this is a president that doesn't just talk the talk. He walks the walk. Yeah, talk the talk. Like I'm going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. That was like 2 years ago. Okay, Donald Trump is all about talking the talk. You know, and it's easy to like use a couple $100 million to pay off some of the corrupt military leaders in Venezuela using CIA informants and intermediaries. And because the country is so economically strangled, it's quite easy to find people that you can pay off. And let's be clear, ladies and gentlemen. When the CIA comes and offers you whatever in a country like Venezuela, it's probably $700,000. That's a king's ransom, or maybe a couple of million. It's not a choice they're offering you. You're going to take the money, and if you don't take the money, this is what's going to happen to you. So this is how that sort of end of the tradecraft works, and this is how the Trump administration works through intimidation. So they're using bribery, blackmail, intimidation, and threats of violence and death and suffering for your family. The carrots are visas for you, golden visas for your family to come to America. There's the cash, and you'll be alive, basically. So I mean, so they've done that. They've taken out, the stand down orders with Maduro's security team, the military, taking out air defenses, waltzed in there. It was a fait accompli, and threats were made to Maduro as well. So if you're the president of Venezuela and you have a choice between the United States potentially bombing your country for 72 days like they did to Yugoslavia and killing thousands of your own people, or somehow negotiating with this gangster cartel, you're probably going to do the latter, okay? Because this overwhelming force, the United States, just an unbelievable advantage militarily, but they're not going to be able to. It's like Trump with the raw earths and the minerals, Garland, with Ukraine. You remember all that? Oh, we're going to put U.S. companies in. You're going to get money, and we're going to take the profits, and we're going to use those U.S. contractors as human shields so the Russians won't attack Western Ukraine. I mean, remember all that BS?
It lasted a couple hours. A couple hours. After, you know what I mean? He does he does these promises, and usually for a couple of hours, maybe a day afterwards, people go in, and then he just forgets it. Hey, what's going on in Ukraine? Oh, where I? Ooh, but Putin's getting on my nerves. Something I don't know. Hey, look, Venezuela, they got oil.
Do you know how long that's going to take to upgrade their energy infrastructure? How many years that's going to take? You can't just waltz in and start working. You've got local, there's all sorts of layers and layers and layers. You need to have buy-in from, they haven't even established a consensus whether the people in the country want this or not.
Well, let me throw this at you. What's her name? Delcy Rodriguez, who I've met and talked to before, whose father died. You know how? He was tortured to death by the CIA.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. Trust me when I tell you this, she ain't going to be one for saying, oh, yeah, great idea. Let's work together, fellas. So now she's given a speech and she said, we've activated the, they got a couple million people that they guns to. We've activated all of them. Our military's ready. We will never, ever, ever be a U.S. colony. There's one president, and that's Maduro. We've got our institutions. I want everybody to know everything's back up and running perfectly, and we're going to resist. So here's my question. How, because you remember Trump said, yes, I talked with her on the phone, and she's going to cooperate. Yeah, just like he talked with Modi on the phone, and Modi said that we're going to stop buying Russian oil. And they said, hey, Modi, did you do that? I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I never talked to him, right? He never talked to her. That was a lie. So you kidnapped the president. The vice president went into place and said, okay, everything's set. Let's go. We're not. So now you are exactly where you started before. You have a new president whose position is, as she said, this is my position. Maduro is the president of this country and we demand him back. You've gotten it. So what are you going to do? Well, I guess we'll have to go kidnap her or go bomb somewhere or do something else. What are you going to do now? How are you going to run a country when the people in the country say, nope, we don't accept it. We will never accept it. We've lived under American imperialism before, and we're ready to resist. Now what?
If this is a card game, and you played your massive royal flush, you played your big hand, okay, and normally you wouldn't play that hand. This is if you wanted to get that regime change result, you could play a longer game and a more strategic chess game, which previous U.S. administrations have done to take down governments. Syria is a good example, although it was 15 years of attrition. They eventually did it. Venezuela is not so easy because they do have resources. They do have human capital. They've got so much more going for them than Syria did. And they're not bordering Israel, which is a big advantage. Okay. So Donald Trump, now it's like being at the poker table, Garland. You play your massive hand and you puff your chest out, and then the person pulls out a whole straight line of aces. And what do? You throw the table over, and then you go for the neck of the person because they beat you. Is that what's going to happen in the next phase of this? Because all they have is their scalp, and that scalp, Nicolas Maduro. And you notice, Garland, how they kidnapped his wife. Okay, this is a particularly insidious and dirty move by Trump, and the reason they did this, because they are stupid on a certain level, but they're also smart because they did not want to allow the wife of Nicolas Maduro to be there as an icon of defiance internationally. So they made up fake charges to indict her for like narco-terrorism, which is not even a real term. Okay, it's not the basis for any kind of criminal indictment, but they did that to the wife in order to keep her imprisoned and on remand, and they're going to basically stovepipe it through the slowest court in the United States, the Southern District of New York. Do we need to explain? And
Yeah.
by the time it goes to trial, Garland, Trump will be out of office.
Yep.
Either he'll have resigned because he's not going to last 4 years. That's pretty clear.
I think so.
Either through health scandal, he'll be impeached after the midterms, or he'll step down because basically he has done something that he shouldn't have done. That's basically sealed his fate, and he's quite in bad shape physically anyway. Okay, he's just as bad as Biden was. I think by the time 2027 rolls around, he's going to be in very bad shape at the rate that he looks like he is just deteriorating by the day. Okay. Sloppy Joe. Okay. So he won't even be around. And you know what? There's no way a judge or a jury is going to convict Nicolas Maduro for narco.
You know what they charged him with? Did you see the charges?
Yeah.
Possession of a machine gun.
Machine gun.
Wait a minute. In his country, he's possessing a machine gun, which he makes the rules there. He's the president.
He's the
commander-in-chief.
He's the head of the armed forces. Does he even possess a machine gun? Nobody knows.
They should have just charged him with speeding on the New Jersey Turnpike while they were at it.
Is that a crime in America, by the way, to have an AR-15? Or
not if you're in another country. That's for sure.
It's not even against the law in the United States. So how's MAGA going to resolve that one? That Nicolas Maduro becomes a martyr for the Second Amendment? I mean, it's a joke. But so he's going to be. Look, Garland, if they had any evidence that Nicolas Maduro was a drug trafficker, you better believe that evidence would have been circulating in the global media for the last 6 months. Let's be honest. They have nothing. They're made up charges, totally fabricated. And because Trump is surrounded by yes men, that somehow, and this is what happens when you have high incompetence and high corruption and a kind of Stalinist type of inner circle where everybody's terrified of somehow falling foul of the dear leader, that you end up having situations like this where you have like a fabricated charge sheet and everyone's rubber stamped it and they all look at each other and say how great it is. And Donald says, is it a strong case, Pam? Oh, yes, sir. It's a strong case. He won't even talk to her directly. He'll ask that to one of his minions, an intermediary, and they'll assure him that they spoke to Pam and that it's ironclad. This is how the Trump administration's operating, by the way. because this is exactly how other dictators have operated in history, and this is why these regimes end up collapsing under the weight of their corruption over time. And this is what you'll see happen to this this regime right now. So Nicolas Maduro is he will not be convicted of what he's being charged with, but Trump won't be around to pay the political price for it.
What's interesting, everybody wants to compare this to Syria. And I say, I compare it more to Iran. You know, the first day, okay, yes, we've got their air defenses down. Remember that? And they're unable to defend themselves. Oh, we've taken out a decapitation strike. Then Trump goes to, what does he do? He has a press conference. Yeah, sirree, I knew everything. First, his people say Trump wasn't involved. He didn't know anything. When he thinks that it was successful, he comes out and says, "Oh, I was involved the whole time. I knew everything, and this was the greatest, and it was the best. Oh, nobody ever did anything like this, and I was all over it." Right? And about 3 or 4 days, when it starts to go to shit, all of a sudden he's like, "Well, I didn't really know what was going on. I mean, they called me later on," and I'm like, "Oh boy, Trump's a great guy to have for a friend, didn't he?" But my point being this. They started off, oh, look at this great operation we've had. And everybody, you know how everybody is online. Yeah, look at that, Garland. They took Venezuela in an hour and they run the country and they own everything and they took the oil. And I'm like, yeah, talk to me in a couple of weeks. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No,
right?
Definitely not.
You know, it's like, and then, about a day later, Iran got their act together and started throwing hypersonic missiles back at Israel. And the shoe was on the other foot real quick. So now, we got them and what have you. And my point is this. But they did a regime change. No, they did not. They captured one guy.
And his wife.
Next person, and his wife. And the next person under stepped up and said, he's the legitimate president. That's our position. We're ready to resist. And everything's back up and running, everybody. The institutions are going. Don't worry. The government is running as it was before, and we will not go along with these people. So what do they do now? You're in the same situation you were exactly before. You claimed to have a regime change, but you didn't. How are you going to run a country when the government says, no, this is our country? She said, we will never be a colony of any country. So what are you going to fly the choppers back in? Okay, we got to capture this person. The next week later, hey, what do we got to do? Who's the third in command? Yeah, well, they're the president now. What's your plan, buddy? It was a nice press conference. Actually, it wasn't, but that's all he can do is a press conference. There's no substance. There's no there. There's no nothing. But how do you duck out of this one?
See, they cultivated the caricature of Maria Corina Machado for 20 years. But she was never put forward as, the opposition leader. They used a student named Juan Guaido and installed him as like U.S. appointed president of Venezuela. So, I mean, this idea of treating Venezuela like a U.S. colony has pedigree right back through multiple U.S. administrations. But she is never. Even Trump admitted, and I mean, this is kind of embarrassing. He admitted in that press conference that she doesn't have any support in Venezuela, but she had been National Endowment for Democracy, USAID, 2 known CIA fronts. This is how she was being paid and funded for years. She had an election NGO that monitored elections that was like funded by USAID. I mean, it's pretty shady. But the idea would be they thought that they could rig the Nobel Prize and give it to her, and then she would have been the CIA's selection. But she was already in the CIA pipeline before Trump was sworn into office in January. And, Trump is like a control freak, so he's like, I don't want her to be the president. He'll have somebody that he wants to put in that's going to be a Trump loyalist. Okay, even though she's been kissing the ass of the Israel lobby, like to a shameless degree, begging Netanyahu to intervene militarily. And the other thing is this, the Israel is an important point. Israel runs U.S. foreign policy of this administration, 100%. Donald Trump cannot do anything that goes against Benjamin Netanyahu's office, period. Nothing. He can't lift a finger. He can do nothing. They wanted her or somebody who is going to be sufficiently pro-Israel in charge, because Israel is trying to, through the Isaac Accords, which is the Latin American version of the Abraham Accords, this is a real thing. They want to flip all of these governments that voted to recognize a Palestinian state. And so they have an agenda in Africa, the same. They have it for Latin America. Very sophisticated Israeli political operation, but it requires the United States help. You can't do it without the U.S. So Israel's helping the U.S. in terms of raping, pillaging, and plundering resources. And in exchange, Israel takes care of their political issues at the UN and some of these other international issues, not to mention all of the various deals, because Colombia and Venezuela used to be great clients for the Israeli military-industrial complex and their arms trade and things like that. So plus some other very shady, dodgy, probably business to do with narcotics and other sort of black interests that the CIA also overlaps in Latin America. Let's be honest, it's a historic fact. The biggest drug trafficker in the Western Hemisphere, traditionally, generation to generation, is, and not just the Western Hemisphere, is Central Asia, Southeast Asia, is the Central Intelligence Agency. Come on, we'd be lying if we said that wasn't true. And the DEA, corrupt elements within the DEA. I can tell you that. I know that very well. I've done plenty of research and, let's say, spoken to people that know who were, involved.
We know that. Yeah, anybody who knows anything about U.S. foreign policy knows that, and U.S. policy knows that the FBI is effectively the internal secret police. Every fascist group has a secret police. If you look back, did they kill Martin Luther King? Yes, they did. Were they involved in the murder of JFK? Of course. Malcolm, anybody who pushed back, and a lot of other people, the FBI was involved in their murder. I suspect they were involved in the murder of Seth Rich. They were surely involved in the cover-up of Seth Rich's murder. I mean, on and on and on. The FBI is a criminal organization. Then certainly go to the DEA. Well, wait a minute. Let me add this, because when people say Trump, I say, wait a minute. Under Joe Biden, the president of Haiti, prime minister's name was Jovenel Moise, they went in and machine gunned him and his wife.
Yeah.
And when they looked at the assassins, guess where they came from? Bogota. They were trained by the DEA. And then the U.S. came in and snatched a couple of them and said, oh, we're going to prosecute these guys ourselves. What the hell are you doing prosecuting the guys who assassinated Haiti? And they brought them back to the U.S. I could look it all up right now in seconds. They said, and then they said, well, the information that we have on these guys has to be classified in court because it would be a problem for national security. In other words, the U.S. So here's my point. Bush, before we get Noriega, we get W, who does the exact same thing. He grabs Chavez, kidnaps him. We could go on and on. Biden machine guns, sends in a group of DEA assassins to machine gun the prime minister of Haiti. Trump snatches. So yes, this is Trump. The difference is Biden was evil, but smart enough not to have a press conference.
Yeah.
He didn't come out and have a press conference and said, yeah, we just machine gunned the president and his wife. Woo-hoo-hoo, and we're going to hide it all, and then we'll steal all the stuff in Haiti. And no, he keeps his mouth shut. Trump's got this big ego. He does it, and he goes out and says, we're going to take everything. That's the difference. Trump is following and maintaining the same thing that the U.S. empire has been doing all along. So you got to be thankful for somebody stupid enough to admit their crimes.
Yeah, and that goes for Aristide in Haiti as well. And
they kidnapped him. I forgot about that. They kidnapped one Haitian prime minister or president. They kidnapped John Bertrand Aristide, and they machine gunned the other one.
Yes, and that's just Haiti. That's just Haiti. Do we want to get into the long list, the litany? Let's go
to Africa. Is there anybody there they didn't kill in the country?
I mean, it's a long list.
Yeah,
it's a long list. So we can agree this is a criminal. It's a criminal enterprise. But the difference is, and I think you've identified this, Garland, from a public optics point of view, the Biden or the Democrat under the table style it somehow preserves the credibility or the thin veneer of credibility of the United States by doing it that way, whereas the neocon style is over the table, it's overt, it's more bombastic. The Trump version of neoconservatism is basically mafioso style intimidation. And what Pete Hegseth said was that we can project American will anywhere in the world. Okay, that's the words he made during the press conference. And Marco Rubio added that anyone who threatens American national interests. Now, that's not the same as national security. National interest is very vague and very broad, so it can mean anything you want. I mean, you should hold somebody to task, especially a Secretary of State, for making that kind of threatening statement. And he said that he accused the Venezuelans of directly threatening the national interests of the United States. Well, potentially that could be anybody at any time in the world. They're accusing the Eskimos in Greenland of threatening the U.S. national interests. This administration is clearly out of control. They're out of control in their rhetoric, and they played all these massive hands up front. And they're going to, there's a price that's going to be paid for that in terms of trust, in terms of cooperation within multilateral institutions, within the international community, with doing business internationally. And this is going to be a net negative for the United States in the long run on many, many different levels, economically, politically, diplomatically, okay? This is going to happen. So all the U.S. is trying to do, what Trump is panicking because everyone's fleeing the U.S. dollar. And the reason they're fleeing the U.S. dollar because the U.S. has overused sanctions as a weapon, including against Venezuela. Okay, let me just establish a couple of important points for your audience, Garland. What you see, and you see all these fake conservative charities. There's a bunch of them. I think they're CIA fronts. They're claiming to do humanitarian work in Venezuela, helping the children and hospital supplies and all this stuff. And they're blaming Maduro. The U.S. unilaterally sanctions these countries like Syria, like Venezuela. They strangle them economically. Okay? Sanctions do not hurt governments. Governments still go to work every morning. They still have to do the job of running the country. Sanctions hurt and punish the population. And the U.S. strategy is to strangle them so hard that they'll theoretically rise up and overthrow the, quote, regime. Okay, and Americans see this as a bloodless policy, better than war. But it isn't. It's an act of war, and it costs lives. So, and then they do this, and then the media and the political class and the chattering class say, oh, Maduro's ruined the economy. Trump just stood up there and said, oh, he's made a mess of the economy, and, well, he has to go, and it's horrible what he's done, and da-da-da. We're going to save the people. The U.S. has been strangling that country for 20 years, okay? They are the reason why the economy is dysfunctional. They're the reason why Venezuela's been shut out of the oil markets. They're the reason why their petrochemical infrastructure cannot be maintained or modernized is because they have no money because the U.S. is sanctioning them, period. It's simple. It would be a rich country, a very successful country, if they weren't under U.S. embargo sanctions. And worse, the U.S. waged a currency war against Venezuela, as they do with all these countries, to basically push their currency down to zero, force them to sell their gold. This is a formula. This is economic warfare. I did my master's dissertation on this. Okay, so if you threaten a country with force or future economic punishment, they will not comply with your demands. And this has been proven out in every single model for sanctions, that pretty much almost 99%. And yet the U.S. still does it because they don't care about the population. They want to punish the people because Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about the people of Venezuela. Okay? Neither does Joe Biden or any other U.S. senator or all these other people. They could care less about the people in Syria, the people in any of these countries, North Korea, Iran, or whatever, they're pretending they're going to be liberating. Okay, they don't care. It's a means to an end. And if they don't get their way, and they didn't get their way with Venezuela, Garland, so what they do? They threw their toys out of the pram and went in with the big guns and literally kidnapped the head of state. I mean, that's an admission of defeat, that their policy is such an abject failure over the last 20 years that now they have to openly go in and just basically steal the natural resource of the country. And what's worse is that in negotiations, 3 times, 4 or 5 times this year, the United States has used negotiations as cover for a sneak attack. They did it with the Iranians when there was, on the eve of negotiations, they're about to commence in Oman in June, and they used it as and waged a decapitation strike, tried to take out the Iranian government with the Israelis. And as you said, Garland, that didn't end well. And they did it again with the Ukrainians, the Operation Spider's Web, right when they were doing high-level negotiations with Russia. And what did they do? They attacked Russia's long-range nuclear bombers. And with the Israelis, they tried to kill Hamas in Qatar during negotiations. The United States was coordinating those negotiations.
I can add 2 more. Yeah, go ahead.
2 more over Christmas. What happened there? Vladimir Putin's residence gets attacked by 91 drones. I thought we were negotiating with the Russians. And Donald Trump says, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it.
How about this? The head of Hezbollah that they killed when he was in his bunker, what's his name?
Nasrallah.
Same thing. But wait a minute.
One.
What happened with Soleimani? They lured him into Iraq and said, hey, we want you to come to Iraq to work on a deal with Iran, and killed him. I mean, it doesn't stop. In other words, that is and if we sat here,
Garland,
we could
that's
probably
7. That's 7 examples, Garland. 7. Yeah. I didn't count. So they tried to.
Nasrallah and Soleimani.
I didn't add those, Garland. I forgot about those. Makes the list even worse. So they hit Vladimir Putin's residence over Christmas. That's a nuclear deterrent command center. Okay. Now, CIA admitted they knew about it. The tech was handed over to the U.S. military yesterday in an open public ceremony. The Russians are doing openly. Okay. Russians know the Ukraine cannot do that operation on their own. Okay. So indirectly, we're looking at a situation where the U.S. it was involved in trying to assassinate or do something close to it to the Russian head of state during high-level negotiations. And Trump admits that he was negotiating with Maduro up until the last minute, but then called off the negotiations. Do we know? Did they promise them? We will find out in 2 years, because only Maduro will be able to tell us the full story. And again, negotiations with Venezuela and a sneak attack. So 7 times? Would you ever negotiate with Donald Trump or the United States?
Yeah, you know what?
Dirty, underhanded, dirty, and criminal. That's it. Can't be trusted.
And guess what? The smartest guy on earth is the head of North Korea, who says, I will not negotiate with. And guess what? He's got nukes. They ain't trying to regime change it. You know what I mean? He's you gotta say, this guy's smart. He went out and got nukes the first chance that he could. And he now says, when Trump came to office, he says, we want to talk. He said, I'm not talking to you people. Not gonna happen. Bye. I gotta give the guy credit. You know what I'm saying? He knows a brute when he sees one. But people have such, the thing we're talking about too, I think, is people have such short attention spans. If Trump does something, the next day he comes out and says something and everybody acts like it's the gospel. And then, man, I don't see, not that they're even smart enough to have a long-term plan here. Within weeks, what is he going to do? You know what I mean? What does he do now? He has literally claimed to own Venezuela. We're going to run it. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Well, somewhere in there, you're going to need the Venezuelans to say, okay. And they're saying no. And then he says, well, we may attack him again. Well, first of all, you didn't really attack him. It was a kidnapping operation. You didn't really attack the country. It was a kidnapping. And by your own words, here's what they said. Yeah, this was a law enforcement assistance. We used the military to assist. Isn't that what he said? We used the
Yes.
military to assist law enforcement to bring in a criminal. Really? Well, then why are you saying you're going to take the oil? I mean, you're saying he was a criminal. He committed a crime. Law enforcement wanted, and we helped him. And we're going to take the oil. Where do you get from if you
It's
were
so
arresting a
flimsy.
drug dealer to taking the oil?
I saw that Marco Rubio told that to Senator Mike Lee from Utah. He said, "Oh, this is law enforcement. So you're invading another country to kidnap their president, and you're saying that we're bombing and doing scorched earth to pave the path to protect our soldiers who are going to arrest and going to make an arrest. I mean, they're not even or do they have law enforcement with them? It's just
No,
stupid.
they have no authority. Right.
It's stupid. So it's the only reason they did that is to put a legal fig leaf over Trump when and if he's impeached for this after the midterms, or to somehow to make sure that the case doesn't completely get thrown out before it even goes to trial in the Southern District of New York. I mean, this is going to be really the stupidest, most retarded case ever to be on the docket. And there's been some real howlers in the Southern District. Trust me, this is bad. This is worse than Melvin Bragg or any of this stuff that they tried to send Trump down on.
Explain this to me. You're saying it was a law enforcement thing, and which makes no sense. But okay, fair enough. Let's just go with that. It's law enforcement. We had to go get this criminal. I got you there. Okay, I don't agree, but I got you there. Therefore, we're going to go take their oil and run their country. It's like the cops come along and they say, yes, we got Garland with I don't know, whatever. We've got Garland with an illegal handgun in his car. We're going to lock him up, right? And by the way, Garland owns a restaurant. Yeah, we're with the cops and the local police decided we're going to go run the restaurant also. Well, wait a minute. I mean, you can arrest the man for having an illegal handgun in his, and he's got to face the music for that. But how does that give you authority to take over the family restaurant or whatever the hell he's running and say we're going to run that too? Where's that connection come in?
It's worse, Garland, that the Venezuelans had the audacity to park their country over U.S. oil.
Our land and our oil. Don't you love that?
I mean, it's so stupid. I'll tell you, there's another sort of, really dumb kind of low level. I mean, they're a violation of the 1973 Wars Powers Act. They're in violation of the Constitution. They're in violation of the UN Charter, in violation of international law, in violation of fundamental U.S. multiple treaties, including extradition agreements with multiple countries, because this affects other treaties, not just what they had or didn't have with Venezuela. Okay? It's a huge problem that's been created here. Okay? But that's not the stupidest thing about it. And this is the low IQ level of the Trump administration. Donald Trump keeps fetishizing about the Monroe Doctrine. Okay? The Monroe Doctrine. The National Security Strategy document, if I was a undergrad level associate professor and my job was to read that and grade it, I would have given it probably a D, because there's plagiarism in it. They plagiarized. Okay? It's a copy and paste job that doesn't mean anything. And then it pretends to trumpet the sanctity of the sovereignty of nation states. And then 3 weeks later, they're egregiously violating the sovereignty of another state in their own hemisphere more than any other, overtly more than any other previous U.S. government in the history of the country, and doing it in open, dramatic fashion. Okay? So it makes a mockery. Not only was it a sophomoric, really just kind of amateurish document, that it's completely hypocritical on a galactic level. I mean, these people should just leave government and go play golf somewhere and just get away from these people don't deserve or doing nothing in the public interest. Nothing. And the Monroe Doctrine, it's the opposite of what Trump has he's calling it the Donroe Doctrine. Oh, a lot of people think I'm like the new Monroe Doctrine, the Donroe Doctrine. It's like a bad comedy sketch. The Monroe Doctrine was enacted after the War of 1812 when this policy was conceived, and it was mainly focused at the British, okay, as well as the French, because they didn't want European powers, colonial powers, to come and recolonize or to impede on U.S. trade, commerce in the near abroad of the United States of America as a young country, okay? That's what it was for. Okay, it wasn't to enforce anything against newly independent states in the Western Hemisphere. The United States is acting like that European power that the Monroe Doctrine, which Trump likes to fetishize and quote, they are the European power that the Monroe Doctrine was designed to keep out and prevent from overstepping and overusing and abusing their powers as superpowers of the day. Monroe Doctrine's 1820, around 1820. So again, they're quoting something, completely reversing the meaning of it and reappropriating it as a fetish, basically. How can you respect these people on an intellectual level or a political level? Nothing means anything to these people. They just say things. They put out stupid memes like F around and find out. That's what the White House tweeted today. FAFO, the big AI generated picture of Trump that makes him look like he's actually fit and in shape. You know, the memes, the stupid AI videos. I mean, there's no end. And they make fools of themselves because, like, there's a stupid X account called Rapid Response 47. It's a White House Twitter account, and they put out a clip of the U.S. choppers flying over in Caracas with CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival, that song "Fortunate Son." It's kind of from the Vietnam protest era of the late 1960s. The song is about rich trust fund kids who were draft dodgers. The kids of rich people, spoiled, privileged rich kids who got out of serving in Vietnam. That's what John Fogerty wrote that song about. And Trump uses it as his anthem. He himself is a rich, privileged draft dodger. Donald Trump. And he's stealing Creedence Clearwater Revival's music and making it for his machismo ego, not knowing that he's just self-owned himself to such a ridiculous degree. These people, do they understand any of this? I don't think they do. I think they're just really thick. And it's kind of like we're at the point now where, you know, you can do this once, you can do it twice. They're in their 30 or 40 or 50th self-own at this point. Why should anyone respect or trust these people? It's just, to me, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, well, what we're looking at, I mean, first of all, Hegseth is to say he's incompetent would be an insult to people who are actually incompetent, you know. And, you know, you look at him, and I watch Rubio sometimes when they're asking him questions and he's searching for answers. He ain't right. These people are not intellectual.
They're not.
Let me give you an example. I've said this. Obama was a Wall Street puppet. You know what I mean? No question about what he was. He was a puppet for power. He was all these kind of things. But you got to say he was a smart guy. You can't say that he was not a smart guy. He was a smart slickster who was able to, you know, bamboozle people into thinking he was the second coming of FDR, and he was just another Wall Street puppet. But he was a smart guy, and he could get it, and he could sound great, and he could have soaring rhetoric, and you'd listen to it, and afterwards you'd be like, yeah, he does a kill list every Tuesday, but he sure seems like a nice guy. You know, he'd leave you bamboozled, right? He bamboozled people for 8 years, but he was a smart guy. You knew he was smart. The Trump administration is every bit as evil as Trump. They're every bit as evil as, they're not less, they're not more. If you paid attention to what Obama really was, he was every bit as evil as these guys. But these people are so stupid. I listen to Hegseth, and, you know, he's the guy, you know, when you were in high school and there was that jock that would go, hey, 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 and he'd hit you on the arm, hey, buddy, boom, and he always hit you. geez, man, not so hard. He never realized. He thought it was funny, but he'd always, and you're like, God, that guy's an idiot. I mean, that's Hegseth. He's the guy that always punches you in the arm too hard. You're like, come on, man, it's too hard. God, chill out, dude. He doesn't get it. And you listen to Rubio thinks he's smart. He always has this look on his face of silence and insanity. But when people start asking him tough questions, he's searching. He does not know what to say. He starts mumbling. And I look at it and I'm like, that's how an empire ends. We end up with the stupidest, most corrupt and incompetent people in the country. And these are the guys that are at the top.
And they clearly do not have any integrity. They don't have any principles. Okay. Donald Trump was on Fox News the morning before that press conference yesterday, and he was mocking people who were citing the Constitution. He says, oh, the Democrats aren't going to give us any credit. And they keep talking about, oh, it's not constitutional and stupid things like that. Trump said it's stupid to be quoting the U.S. Constitution. This president who claims that he swore an oath to defend and protect the U.S. Constitution, as all military and public servants have to swear this oath against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and he's mocking it on national TV after he just basically kidnapped a head of state on trumped up charges. I mean, he's out of control. The administration is out of control. They're in an illegality zone. Okay, they're mocking the Constitution. This is bad for the country, and this is how the system breaks down. Why should anybody respect and defend the U.S. Constitution if the President of the United States is making jokes about it and making fun of people that are citing the Constitution when it comes to measuring up his policy? And anybody in the military that is not taking this, is not seeing a red flag here, then you should like retire and go leave, get out. Because if you swear and defend allegiance to Donald Trump, then you're a fascist by definition. You're not a republic. You're not part of a constitutional republic. You are part of a cult of personality, and in political terms, that's defined as fascism. End of story. There's no explanation or excuse you can make at that point. That's not what the United States was founded on. The United States Constitution is the grout that holds the country together and gives it continuity from administration to administration, from decade to decade. It's that document. It does mean something. Because if everybody did what Donald Trump does and mocks it, makes fun of it, doesn't follow it, well, where would we be as a society?
Didn't we just have Netanyahu and somebody else, some other Zionists say, yes, you're going to have to get accustomed to not having the First Amendment.
Yeah. That was an Israeli billionaire who wants to censor the internet. And didn't get any pushback at all from obviously the administration or the mainstream media on that. So there's another person who I'm going to hold to task on this, besides everybody else we mentioned, is Tulsi Gabbard.
I was about to bring up Tulsi Gabbard. I was a big fan. When she said she was going to run in 2020, I was so excited. It was a Wednesday. She said, okay, Saturday, I'm going to announce it in Hawaii. Thursday, I got on a plane. I flew to Hawaii. I have still have the pictures, so I could be there. I was so excited because of the things that she said. I wanted to be there. I flew there, and I was there when she announced. I was so excited. I loved her.
Myself and our colleagues in media, Garland, we all loved Tulsi. We were excited about her being in politics, running for president, okay, because we believed that she had real principles, that she actually would, stand by those principles when it came to the crunch. And she gave a speech a couple of months ago about, the Trump administration's not like previous administrations, and we've lost our way in America with these regime change wars and da-da-da-da-da, okay? This is the prima facie, the best example of an imperialist regime change war that we've ever seen in the modern era. And Tulsi Gabbard had to have been involved in the preparation of this, and she has kept silent. So she should have resigned when Donald Trump threw under the bus for putting out an intelligence assessment last March that said Iran was not pursuing the building of a nuclear bomb. Trump insulted her. He mocked her on Air Force One. And what did she do? She kept her mouth shut. Yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir. So that would have been the time to resign. And I think the public support that she would have got if she had resigned at that point, because Trump went on to use fake intelligence to justify an unprovoked attack on Iran against nuclear weapons that nobody has ever seen or that they didn't have. And Tulsi could have prevented that by resigning. She would have created such a political rift in Washington. It would have prevented that war, which could have easily triggered a third world war and which may eventually trigger a third world war if Netanyahu and Trump are going to bomb Iran again. Is Tulsi going to stay silent again? Tulsi Gabbard.
Does she exist? Where is she? She has not tweeted. She has said nothing since this happened.
She should resign now. Okay. And you know what? She has been promised, this is no secret, she's been promised either a VP spot for 2028 with J.D. Vance or Rubio, or a presidential campaign, and then that might be parlayed into a VP spot. But there's people backing different people through across the Republican and Democratic spectrum for the next election, like the Israeli lobby, because they back everybody. They back every horse. This is how they keep them supple and supine and compliant today, by promising them some big prize career-wise in the next election cycle. That's how Washington works. And Tulsi Gabbard has been promised an upgrade in her career, and so she's keeping her mouth shut because she thinks that she's going to get a ride on the next ticket. Okay, I think that's a huge mistake on her part. I think that if she was a real person of principle and she actually believed all these platitudes that she's built her image on, there'd be plenty of public support behind her, not just American support, global support.
How about this? She resigns and runs with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Of course, I'd vote for her. I'd vote for her if she resigned, because
Yes.
then I know she's passed the test. But I will never vote for her or ever support her going forward, because she has basically sold out, and she's done it to MAGA, which is the worst thing to sell out to. I mean, she is basically toxic. Everybody in the Trump administration is toxic waste at this point politically. This is not going to be a good legacy. This will go down. I've said this before, and some people winced at me when I said this. I said it 6 months ago, and I'll say it again. This administration will go down as the most corrupt, criminal government in the history of the United States of America, more than Richard Nixon or anything like that. That's the legacy Tulsi Gabbard has purchased, and all the others too, including J.D. Vance. Nobody will escape unscathed. They will be tarred as bad as the Bush administration. Worse. You know, even Elliot Abrams got a second chance. Like, that's not going to happen here. And if we survive as a country, if the world survives at this rate, Garland, I mean, I'm not
I'm with you.
Exaggerating.
I'm with you.
Dangerous. Very dangerous. There's more people with nuclear weapons on this planet right now. What they're doing now is sending a very bad message that, A, do not negotiate with the United States. Be ready to go to war. And if you have nuclear weapons, be ready to use them, because the United States might try to take you out during negotiations. That's the message Trump is sending to the world. That is not good.
How about this? And we got some real serious economic problems. Americans do not know that we are on the edge of an economic freaking disaster. So all of this happens, and we get some kind of 2008 on steroids kind of crash. I've already said, in my opinion, I think there's going to be violence in Europe. I believe that when the people around Europe wake up and realize what their governments have done to them economically, I used to say there may be, ain't no may about it. France, Germany, the UK, when people wake up and realize not only have they wrecked everything and deindustrialized you, and they put you in debt forever. So there's no way to get no way out. There will be violence in Europe. For that, it's just I can't even fathom the level of disaster in Europe. And then you look at the US and you're like, dude, we got like, I forgot how many $1 trillion of debt coming that they're going to have to refinance this year. You know, we got 37 trillion in debt. And what do they do? I know, I got a good idea. Let's increase the Pentagon budget by 150 billion dollars. If you look at what they're doing and you're like, you came in and said, boy, the Biden administration is a disaster. They're spending like drunken sailors doing. Yeah, I agree. They all the things that you accuse them, and you come in, and now it's like what you're doing either the same or worse, or the same and just more open about it. It's looking at them from Tony Blinken to Rubio. You know what I mean? From the clowns they got to the clowns we got here. People expected an improvement. At least they expected something different. They felt it couldn't get worse. You just got a different flavor. That's what I would say. You got a different flavor of the same thing.
Yeah, a much more pungent flavor, let's just say. I mean, you know, the insidiousness of the Biden administration, specifically with Israel in October 2023, that Tony Blinken, Joe Biden, what they allowed to happen, the green light they gave Israel, they armed them, they gave them absolutely unconditional support, okay, to carry out just egregious, disgusting massacre. That, by the way, Tulsi Gabbard completely is on board with the genocide. She supported Israel to the hilt, okay, as did RFK Jr. Okay, there's another one. Okay, that's bad. That's bad. But you know, there was an opposition to that, Garland. Democrats came out against Joe Biden, and the kids said "Genocide Joe." That was the campus slogan, and I had to look at that, and that kind of made me feel good about the young generation because they cared enough to basically take the partisan political identities, throw them off to the side, and saying, no, this is about humanity, this is about human rights, this is about right and wrong, about ethics. And it gave me a lot of hope for the next generation when I saw that. When I look at MAGA, what the hell is MAGA at this point? It's just a bunch of slop at this point, and half of it's peeled off.
Yeah.
If you take away the right-wing media and you take away whoever's supporting Trump, there's not a lot of support there. I mean, have you seen his polls for independence?
Oh, yeah.
It's a 40x drop from 12 months
people under 32.
From 12 in 12 months.
Dropped to like 0 or something for people under 30.
Garland, in 12 months.
Yeah.
You cannot get elected in America without carrying a comfortable majority of independents. Donald Trump doesn't have them. He'll never get them back. Donald Trump will never, ever get the independents back. They won't get them back for the midterms, and they will not get them for 2028. So they're in trouble if they think that their legacy is going to be like power forever. The only option they have is to take the country to war, declare a state of emergency, and then delay the elections indefinitely. That would be the only, I think, viable strategy that this administration could do to pull off, or to keep, you know, a Trump loyalist in power or whatever. That's not a great look for the country. And the problem is the Republicans, these people, how can you, with a straight face, believe any of this BS that's been pushed down the throat of America in the last 24 hours? I mean, it's just so dishonest. They know it's a lie, but for whatever reason, they're still enamored with the victory, the victory lap that's being done with the U.S. military. But Garland, it's a smaller and smaller segment of the right, of conservatives. I don't think there's a lot of support there. I really don't. Take the media away, and all that pomp that you get in terms of propaganda, and take a few celebrity Twitter accounts away and about, I don't know, a couple million bot accounts, which is what I'm getting hit with.
You and me both, constantly. I'll guarantee they're in the chat right now. Every day when I do shows, there's a bunch of bots in the chat.
With like 26 followers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they basically created accounts. Take that away, and where's the consensus? I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's, and that's going to bear out even more, I think, Garland, in the next weeks and months as well. It's going to get worse. So, enjoy your victory lap.
Well, the other thing you got to add is this, and that is, and I think this is a good thing, that people are learning you can't vote for a Democrat or a Republican and get out of this. You know what I mean? And learning that, they are just going to out and out lie to you. That, Biden, oh yeah, bring me in, and I'm going to raise the minimum wage. I'm going to, what's the other thing? We got to fix Obamacare with a public option. We got to do that. He did not one thing. As soon as he got elected, he didn't even think about any of them anymore. So what did Trump do? Same exact thing. He got in, oh yeah, we're going to throw the neocons out and get rid of the warmongers. Oh really? How'd that work out? You know what I mean? Might I add, I got to add this. Last thing out, because I know we've been here now, but I got to throw this. And Kash Patel comes in with this bull crap that he's going to deal with Epstein. He's going to deal with this. By the way, might I mention, conveniently, the Epstein files were supposed to drop on they were supposed to explain why they didn't redact the appeal. This was supposed to happen on Friday, the same day that this other thing happened, just coincidentally. The whole Epstein thing was supposed to drop coincidentally on the same day. But Kash Patel is trying to tell us that Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck with a 30-06. You're talking about a guy within law enforcement. Trust me, I know guns very, very well. I taught in the academy. I was a firearms instructor. We're supposed to believe that a guy got shot in the neck with a gun that would kill a bear, and it never even left his neck. So I'm like, Kash Patel came in. He said, I'm going to close down the building. I'm going to do. And when he got in, everything he said was a lie. So now people can look at Biden, they can look at Trump and Kash Patel, all of them. And when a Democrat or a Republican runs in 2028, if we're still alive, here's what you know. Everything they tell you is a lie. If you vote for them, do not get angry when they lie to you. The whole Kash Patel, the whole Erica Kirk is about the worst crock of crap I've ever seen in my life.
It's embarrassing.
We're supposed to believe that.
Yeah, it's beyond embarrassing. Charlie Kirk had bones, godlike bones of steel. That was the official, I think.
They said it was a miracle.
A miracle. Could be canonized, of course, if this was Catholic. We'd have to send that to Pope Leo, and it'll go through the conclave, but maybe he has a chance.
When the government says, we got a story of how things happened, and you say, okay, give me the info, they go, well, first of all, you're going to have to accept that there was a miracle. I don't believe the government under normal circumstances. And when it gets to the point where I literally have to believe that a miracle occurred to believe the government story, at that point, I'm already not believing
them.
But
do
now
this, Garland. Garland, put your hands together and just go, like that. And that's how you can believe. You have to believe. As a law enforcement professional, Garland, I have to throw this one your way and get your professional opinion on it. Donald Trump, who's waging a war on drugs, we're told, okay, he has just pardoned one of the biggest drug traffickers ever to get sent down in a U.S. federal trial, named Juan Orlando Hernandez, former disgraced president of Honduras. Now, if I'm not mistaken, with my small knowledge, to know that that was processed through a grand jury, there's plenty of evidence that he was, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of tons of cocaine that he was involved in importing into the United States. And the U.S. president, without giving any explanation or justification, has pardoned this notorious drug cartel actor during this time that he is wanting to, expropriate an entire country like Venezuela under the fake rubric guise of the war on drugs. Shouldn't there be some kind of a Senate hearing to determine who told Donald Trump and why to pardon such a high-level criminal? I mean, doesn't that undercut the U.S. justice system?
Well, I can tell you why.
Tell us.
Well, I used to do some work on Capitol Hill for a congressman. And of course, I was on Fox for years. So let's just say I talked to a lot of people. And I had someone say to me that, he was an attorney and he had a client, and his client had a federal charge, and his client was a very, very well-known person. And he says, my client approached me and said, look, do you know anybody in the administration? I'm not even going to say what administration. It was the presidential administration. And the person said, do you know anybody in the administration who could talk to the president about a pardon? And he said, okay, I'll feel my way around. I know some people in DC. And he came back. He said, you know what I was told? I said, what? 2 million. That's the price. That, 2 million means this guy gets his cut, and then the president gets the rest, literally. And this is a person who, if I told you their name, you'd probably know them. And this is not. I mean, so it wasn't like I was talking to someone.
Would that be cash payment, Garland, by any chance?
I don't know how, but the guy told me he was told. I'm sure it was the price is 2 million. Now that was 6, 7 years in that range, right? Late. I think it was prior to COVID. But here's my point, which would mean it was Trump's first term, early in it. But here's my point. So what I found out was that's the way it works for pardons. There's a number. And the number you want to pardon, you meet the number, you get a pardon. It is, in fact, that corrupt. So here's what I know. I know what a guy got. I know another person who's had a very rich drug dealer in their family who got their son pardoned. And same deal. So the bottom line is this. I know what a guy got pardoned. He hit the number.
Money talks.
That's what it was. Bullshit runs a marathon.
Oh, what a great system. Oh, so...
That's all it was. It was the number. So then there we sit with the great contradictions. And you don't even think, you know why? Because I don't care. What do I care? Hey, I'm going to do that. And then next week I'm going to say I'm taking this guy for drugs. And I already know people are going to say, hey, there's a contradiction. I don't care. I'm a lame duck. Presidents are always lame ducks. It doesn't matter to them. They're getting paid. Look, Hunter Biden sells a finger painting that, like, when my daughter, it looks like I still got like an old finger painting from like when my daughter was 5 years old, and it says like daddy, when the eyes are crooked and stuff. Hunter Biden sells that crap for $800,000, and we're supposed to believe that it was some kind of a masterpiece. No. So that's the game, man. Here, it's time for people to wake up.
Yeah, art is the greatest money laundering. It's amazing. It's nothing better.
Well, tell everybody where they can find all your 21st Century Wire stuff and find you online and all.
Well, 21stcenturywire.com, that's the website that I founded in late 2009, and I'm executive editor. And also I've got a Substack column, which we're in the process of developing, but there's some content there as well. But we have a show called The Sunday Wire, which I did a live broadcast today, and we broke down a lot of this Venezuela stuff. And we have daily great reports, great investigations on 21st Century. That's our end of the year 2026 predictions and our top conspiracies of 2025. These are two articles that we do every year that a lot of people just love. And if you look back at them, Garland, your mind will be blown when you look in the archive at what were the top 10 conspiracies of the last 11 years. And also look at our predictions. We've been right about quite a lot of things in the previous years.
Well, thank you very much. Certainly appreciate you coming on here on a Sunday evening, and look forward to having you back again soon. Everybody go to 21, that's 21ST, 21stcenturywire.com to keep up with all of the stuff they're doing there. Make sure you check it regularly. If there's any way you can afford to support 21stcenturywire.com, make sure that you help them out in any way you can. And of course, make sure you share 21st Century Wire. You can just clip out the 21stcenturywire.com, just cut that, paste it into all your social media platforms and share it. Remember, like, these types of things that I'm doing, the things that Patrick's doing, nobody here is like we ain't making no money. We're trying to survive and trying to do the best we can to get this information or info out there. So if you can donate, but even if you can't, the way it works, let's see, what do we got? 1,388 people. Imagine if 1,388 people right now cut and paste 21stcenturywire.com into their social media platforms and just put, hey, everybody, check this out. It would make a difference. And so that's what you guys can do. All right. Thanks a lot. The most important thing you can do is share all of this stuff on all your social media platforms. We're out.